Welcome to the Yacht Buoy Podcast. Today I'm speaking with Dr. Stephen Weatherley, the founder of Archipelago Expedition Yachts. Stephen and his team are doing some really exciting things, and their impressive range of exploration catamarans are already proving to be a huge hit. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
Good afternoon, Stephen. How are you?
Hello, John. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Yes, nice to speak to you.
Yeah, no, likewise. No, likewise. Welcome back to the podcast. For our listeners who may not be aware, we had a few technical issues on our first one. So we're recording this again, although a couple of weeks have passed since we published the first one. So how have you been? A lot been going on your end, especially with your crowdfunding campaign that you had that did really well by all accounts.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, there's a lot going on. Always feels like there's a lot going on. We've had huge amounts of inquiries. We've raised some funding, using the Crowdcube campaign, which was great and always amazing to get overfunded, which we have. And obviously lots of boats to build over the next few months, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
All going well, thank you. Yeah.
So in terms of the build lineup, then, so what have we got on the boil at the moment?
So we are just about to go into build with 3 boats. The first one that's going to start cutting metal will be an Archipelago 40, which is one of my favourite little ones. I really love the 40, which we can obviously come on to. Then we're going to go to the Archipelago 52, which is the slightly stretched and widened 47 and has a flybridge on the top. And then the 80 will follow pretty soon after that. So I expect we're going to be cutting metal on the 80 probably around June time.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's phenomenal in terms of how much you've got going on. How are you going to manage everything? I mean, have 3 boats all being sort of simultaneously built at the same time. How are you going to manage it all?
Yeah, well, we've got some extra staff coming on board to look after that. So we've got a bit of a growth in the company, partly helped by the crowdfund campaign. But basically, I mean, all of these builds are done by, competent, well-respected boat yards. And so, in terms of, I guess, us as Archipelago, there's obviously a lot to do with them, but, largely it's managed by the boat yards themselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what do you estimate the build time on the 40 is going to be? Because, like, I know you said before, this one of your favourite models, and I can see why. When you look at the renderings and you look at the market, how it is at the moment in terms of people that are really interested in getting out on the water on a boat that they can just kind of crack on with exploring on. You can see how and why a model like the 40 is going to be so popular. So, how long do you think it's going to be before hulls kind of touch the water?
Yeah, I mean, it's a first in class, like all of them. So there's obviously a little bit of margin in the build, but we think it'll be on the water in around July, August next year, which will be great. It'd be fantastic to have it in shows and to be able to get some social media footage of it. From my perspective, the reason I love it is I just think it's a great size. It's probably what I would build for my family, just in terms of sort of affordability and fitting the right number of kids in the right number of hulls. And I just, I love the idea that you can take it into small harbours. And, I spent lots of my childhood in Lymington Town Quay with my dad on our boat. And, they've got length limits and things like that. And having a boat that you could go up there in, but also, happy to go smashing out in heavy weather and know it's going to keep you safe is just sort of the ultimate for me. And that's reflected in all our boats, but I just love the 40 because it's a little pocket package that can do it.
I think the thing is as well is that LOA that a lot of people are going to be really comfortable with, owner operator who maybe at the moment has got a boat that's kind of sub 30 foot, wants something a bit bigger, doesn't want to go over the 50 foot. LOA of 40, I think, is a really nice kind of offering for someone like that.
Yeah, and the 40 as well is quite neat because it's designed as hybrid by default. So it's hybrid diesel electric by default. Obviously, you can have it as a standard diesel, but the model that we're producing for the first customer is hybrid diesel electric. It's got 40 kilowatt hours of battery, which can be upgraded to 80 kilowatt hours. It's got solar, which is really neatly recessed into the roof. It's got rainwater harvesting if desired, and so it's cool because you can do silent running for a period of time. You don't have to have a generator. You can recharge the batteries from the main engine in about half an hour. So it's a really cool boat. It's been really well thought through, and I'm really excited to see it perform.
In terms of, I know everything's on paper at the moment, it's all subject to sea trials. What kind of range would you expect to get from the battery-only operation?
Yeah, we're not. I mean, I don't. You and I have discussed this before. I don't really see our boats as sort of, I guess, long range in inverted commas battery boats. I don't think batteries are really up to the task for exploration. We would expect from that battery to get around 1.5 to 2 hours at sort of 5-6 knots. Really, it's mainly because the owner, he likes the idea of silently coming into harbour, silently moving to a bay, and also being silent overnight with no generator. And we've got more than enough battery capacity to keep you going for a few nights. So that's the main reason, rather than long distance electric propulsion.
I guess as well, it means you can get access to parts of the world, especially anchorages, where you're just not allowed to go in there with your traditional kind of combustion engines firing. You can only go in there either on a paddle board or something that doesn't have an engine. I guess that means that you can electrically propel yourself into these kind of areas for a few hours, have a look around, and then come back out again, which is a great USP for people, I think, as well.
Yeah, and I think we are, increasingly, I think we're going to see places like that in the world, relatively protected bays and harbours, sites of special interest, and places with lots of diverse nature, where I think governments and councils are going to start saying, well, sorry, no diesel boats in here. And I think you're right. Having that electric propulsion is going to be necessary.
And in terms of options, so if someone's listening to this, they're thinking, you know what, I really want to find out more about the 40. What engine options do you have with the 40?
Well, like all of our models, we're pretty engine agnostic, really. We typically work with the customer depending on what area of the world they want to operate. The engines that we're providing with the first one are little Yanmar 4LV 250 horsepower each, and they're paired with a 100 kilowatt electric motor. So there's two of each of those in a hull, one in each hull, and we can go up to probably 350 horsepower or 400 horsepower per side, which will make it a rocket, really. So we would just work with whatever the customer wants and how they're going to use the boat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of, again, I know it's going to be hard to try and predict what the actual figure will be, but in terms of range, whilst under power, what kind of range are you be expecting for hull number one of the 40?
Yeah, displacement speeds, we're expecting ranges around the sort of 1,200 to 1,400 miles for that boat. The owner is going to live aboard, and he wants to basically hop around in Europe and Northern Europe, and wants to be able to get from Shetland over to Norway and potentially a little bit further. So it's going to have really good range at displacement speed, obviously, and then reducing as you speed up.
It's going to be C category A.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's the thing. I when I make a lot of videos that I publish on my channel, I always read the comments, and one of the questions that always gets asked is, what's the range on this thing? And I remember doing a feature on a boat a while ago. It was a really popular boat, actually, single hull one. And people were gobsmacked at the range. I think the range on the boat that I featured was about the 1,000 nautical mile mark.
Yeah,
it was a 50-foot boat. But the point was that it was the owners who decided that was the sort of range that they wanted. If they wanted to build a boat that had a bigger range, transatlantic range, they could have done it on the hull that they had built, but they just didn't need it. They didn't need to go 4,000 miles on a single tank of fuel. And I guess that's the thing, isn't it? If you're going to be using the boat around Europe, around the Mediterranean, keeping around the coast, then why would you need a 4,000 nautical mile range?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, for us, it's all about matching the boat to the the user's requirement. Really, we make sure we work with them to understand where they're going to be, where they're going to operate it. So, for example, this one, because it's going to operate a lot of its time up in Northern Europe, it's got a hot water heating system in it, as in hot water radiators and things, because obviously it's much more comfortable to have radiators like you do in your house when it's really cold, rather than having just hot air heaters blowing hot air around. So we've really customized the boat based on where he's going to be with it.
And how do you find that from a builder's perspective, when you have a potential owner and they come to you and they say, look, this is what I want, this is the design that I want, but this is the level of customization that I want, and they go into really kind of in-depth details. How do you manage expectations versus kind of reality? Because I guess you want to be able to facilitate someone's demands and needs, but at the same time you have to be realistic. How do you kind of manage that?
I think it depends on the customer. I mean, we've got some customers that are obviously more demanding than others, and I think it's incumbent on any boat manufacturer, but certainly a sort of slightly semi-bespoke boat manufacturer like us, to push back on decisions where we feel it's going to compromise the boat. And you do get lots of those. People want all sorts of things, and where we think it's going to compromise either the boat, their use of the boat, or our brand and what we stand for, then we just have to say, look, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. What we do find is that obviously most people, as you can imagine, that are coming to us to talk about buying a boat are pretty experienced boat owners, and they know what they're doing, and they like what we stand for because of what we're trying to do in the market, and therefore actually most of them are pretty sensible about almost pushing us to do things in a more simple way. For example, one of my mantras is all about simplicity, but you get customers that are like, no, make it simpler than that, and that's great. So actually you can learn a lot from some customers, which is fantastic.
I think as well, it's phenomenal what you've managed to achieve. It only seems a short while ago that I came to visit you when the 47 was being built on the Isle of Wight, and here we are, maybe 2 years? Is it 2 years later? And you've got all these kind of boats in build and all these different designs. You've done an incredible job. How have you found it? I know obviously it's been stressful, as starting any business is, but how have you kind of managed just yourself emotionally, practically, in terms of your time and everything else?
You might have to ask my partner rather than asking me. She may have a very different opinion on it. I mean, look, I would be lying if I sat here and said it was all a piece of cake. Starting any business is hard, and I think it's been harder than I thought it was going to be. Actually, I was probably naive about how it was going to be. And there are fantastic bits. The conversations with customers and helping a customer sort of see their dream become reality is great. That's the bit that's fun, and being able to take a boat out in the water and do sea trials with it and get drone footage of it and things like taking the 47 to Norway, which is coming up. That's all fantastic, but clearly it's a difficult industry, and the economy is a difficult place. The world's an uncertain place, and operating any small business is hard. But particularly doing it in this industry is very difficult. And we try and differentiate ourselves and make sure we stand for something that's quite special in the market, and hope that that's successful. And it seems to be so far.
Yeah, people absolutely love it. I know whenever I talk about Archipelago on my socials, people are really interested to find out what's happening and what's going on and stuff, which moves me on to the 52. So some of the key features on the 52, and you're looking at about a 3,000 nautical mile range, up to 30 knots, accommodate up to 8 people. and a very shallow draft as well, only 3 foot or 1 meter draft. So yeah, tell us more about the 52. I mean, I'm looking at the 52 now on my computer, and she just looks absolutely stunning. I
Yeah.
love the angle of the flybridge from the forward raking windows where those two angles meet. I think it's a really, really nice aesthetic.
Thank you.
But yeah, tell us more about that. So how long do you think it's going to take to build the 52 then?
I think a bit like the 40, it'll be a roughly a sort of 12 to 13 month build. The 52 for me is I think, yeah, inevitably I think it's going to become our most popular boat. It's obviously, it's got that flybridge, it's got that outdoor space, but it's also lost none of the robustness of the range. And as you say, we've tried to really incorporate that flybridge in a nice way. It's a half a meter wider than the 47, and obviously it's stretched a little bit. You've got sugar scoop steps down into the sea. You've got either davits or a lifting platform at the back for your tender. And again, big choice of engine options depending on where people are going to operate it. But I think coming to your point about shallow draft, I think I've distilled my thinking about our brand and what we stand for, and I sort of pull it down to 3 or 4 S's really. Safety is key, right? Speed is something which differentiates us from the other sort of long distance trawler yachts, for example. And the other 2 are shallow draft, because people with big trawler yachts typically can't get particularly close to harbours where we can. And the other one, the other S I like to use is simplicity. And whereas if you've got a big heavy displacement trawler yacht, you're going to have seakeepers, you're going to have stabilizers, they're going to be complex. It's a complex, heavy boat.
Yeah.
We strip all of that away and you don't have it. And there's something nice about just simplicity, just having 2 reliable diesel engines, a generator or not, plus good reliable steering, and what you've got, how to maintain it, you've got space around the engine, and that's all there in the 52 in spades. So I think it's going to be a really popular boat.
Again, it's a very friendly owner-operator boat as well, isn't it? All the points you mentioned there kind of lead up to somebody who wants to operate the boat themselves, and just get on with exploring, because essentially you can live on board if you're lucky enough to be able to manage your business or manage your affairs remotely. Starlink means that you're never going to be out of contact, and it's certainly something that I think we've seen, haven't we, over the last kind of couple of years. More and more people thinking to themselves, do you know what? I want to sell my house, I want to sell my assets, I want to get on a boat, and I want to actually see the world. And something like the 52 is such a great option for an owner-operator with a family. It'd be interesting to see, which one out of your models is the one that's going to be the most popular, because it's hard to kind of say, isn't it? Because you've got this one here, which is kind of 52 foot, obviously 12 foot bigger than the 40, that extended range. But at the same time, if somebody was in the market for a boat that is 50 foot plus LOA, the 40 would just be suitable for them as well. So it'd be really interesting to see which one becomes the most popular model. It could be all of them simultaneously.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be the 80.
Yeah, which leads us on to the 80 as well then. So tell us a bit more about the 80.
Yeah, well, the 80's been an incredible project to work on. The owner of the 80 has multiple toys and multiple uses for the vessel. He wants it to live aboard for quite a significant portion of the year. He wants to be able to cross oceans, but also he wants to be able to land a helicopter on the roof. He wants to put a submarine on the back. He wants to potentially put a container on the back, a 20-foot container. And so having to, I guess, fit all of this exciting equipment and the versatility of the boat onto a sub 24 meter platform, which means he can operate it. He doesn't need crew. So that's the really incredible thing about this boat, is it is a owner operated boat but with all of this capability to carry massive payloads, do huge distances, and do it with some quite stylish lines as well. I mean, I haven't released the renders of the 80 and how it's going to look. We're going to do that probably in about a month's time.
Yeah.
But it's a really sexy looking boat, and it's just hugely capable.
It looks unbelievable. I mean, the images on your website, I know they're not the most recent renderings, but even when you look at these images with the submersible on the aft deck, the helicopter pad, and the fact that the owner is going to be operating it himself, I mean, wow, what a guy! What an explorer! I can imagine a spell on board that would be lots of fun. Just incredible kind of design. Just overall, when you look at it, it just stands out. And I think that, I can't wait to see the build progress of that. What kind of time frame are you looking at with the 80? Do you think?
Well, so the owner is pretty demanding in terms of time scales. We're hoping that the 80 will hit the water in about February, March next year.
Wow,
and we're depending on the owner's plans and how we're going to move it around the world with him. We're hoping to put that into a boat show, probably Cannes next year. But which is that would be incredible. I think it is going to be an amazing boat, and some of the other features about the 80 which I think are great is it's designed hybrid diesel electric as standard. So we've got helicopter landing on the roof, the whole roof is basically covered in solar, walk on solar, apart from where the helicopter is going to land. And so that's going to give us around sort of between 20 and 24 kilowatts of solar, which means you've got a huge amount to run the boat there. It's going to have about 150 kilowatt hours of battery. It's got twin 250 kilowatt electric motors as well as big diesel, so it'll do up to sort of 28 knots diesel, and it's got all the other things. It's simplicity, shallow draft, all the rest of it. So I cannot wait to see it in the water. It's going to be amazing.
So on the helipad, then the entire helipad deck is going to be solar array, other than the actual inside the circle where the actual H is. Outside of that circle, everything's going to be solar.
Yeah, basically, the whole roof's covered in solar, and obviously, the ability to, or the desire to land a helicopter on the roof is relatively unique, probably to this owner. We may see others that want that, but ultimately, if other owners just want to absolutely maximize the solar array on the roof, for example, and not have anything taken away, then that's obviously an option. And we've got some designs in progress for a sort of more, what's the right word? Like a sedan version, a lower version as well, which is going to look really cool.
Yeah, and it's just wow, what an incredible boat. And the helipad, will it be a touch and go, or will the owner keep the helicopter on board whilst cruising, or is it just going to be an embarkation disembarkation function?
No, I think it's unlikely they'll keep it on while cruising. I think typically helicopters and salt water don't mix really well. But certainly in terms of just being able to land and take people on and off and things like that, I think it's going to be a really unique boat.
It's interesting you say about salt water and helicopters. It's one of the things that always used to amaze me when I was on board HMS Invincible, which is one of the carriers that the Royal Navy had, was when we were kind of going through the big seas and the helicopters and the jets were still operating on the flight deck. I never understood how they could ingest any amount of sea spray and still operate. But it's phenomenal engineering. So in terms of so what's next then? Obviously you've got these kind of 3 boats in the process of getting ready to be built. What does the future hold over the next 5 years?
I mean, from my perspective, I think we're still sort of pushing on with our plans towards, I guess, net zero carbon boats. So as you know, and we've spoken about before, we're doing quite a lot of work on methanol fueling. We were lucky enough with Chartwell Marine, our naval architects, to win a few Innovate UK grants to both design and bring into operation methanol fueled vessels. That's still all sort of going on in the background, and our 63 is designed as a methanol vessel as standard, clearly available with diesel or diesel electric. But I want to see a path over the next 5 years towards getting a proper zero carbon long distance explorer vessel on the market. That's where I want us to be as a business.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. At the moment, it's not massively cheap to be able to do that and put that sort of technology in a boat. But if someone out there, which there are those people who are really keen sort of technology adopters, are willing to do it and spend a bit of money on it, I think it's entirely possible to get a boat run on biomethanol, which is basically welterweight zero carbon.
It's almost like the holy grail, isn't it, of boating, motorboating, is having that kind of ability to power your boat using something like that rather than the standard diesel setup. It would be a phenomenal thing to achieve. If you, I guess you're not a betting man, but if you was a betting man, how much would you kind of bet on that happening in the next 5 years?
I'll place 2 bets.
2 for 1.
You could. It's all possible, right? And all the technology's out there. There's no reason we shouldn't be doing it apart from cost. So in terms of my betting on us being able to do it and do it well, I'd bet a lot of money on it. In terms of, I guess, the boating market being willing to make that step and adopt it more wide scale, I think that's probably 20 years away, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I think part of it will have to come down to legislation, really. I don't think it's just going to be able to be done with people's conscience. It's going to have some legislation around it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of, so if someone's listening to this podcast, I think, you know what, I want to find out more. I've got a budget in my mind of how much I want to spend. What kind of figure would they be looking at for the 40, do you think, as kind of rough ballpark? Because one of the things that has always stood out to me is how fairly priced your beautiful boats are. It's one thing that kind of struck out to me, especially with the 47.
Yeah.
What kind of price should somebody be expecting for the 40, as an example?
So a standard 40 is around the million GBP mark, and that's fully configured, ready to go with electronics, engines, and all the rest of it, and solar on the roof. And obviously it goes up from there. The other models, but yeah, I think it's kind of you to pick up on that. I've always wanted our boats to be fairly priced. To be honest, I'd love to sell them cheaper, but just in terms of the technology and the labor and all the rest of it, it's just it's impossible to do these things cheaply nowadays, especially for a sort of well-built aluminium boat like that.
At this point in my conversation with Stephen, the line did drop. However, we were able to get back in contact again a few minutes later and crack on with our chat.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what happened there. It just went quiet. But hey ho, technology. Hey, I was just going to say the 47 then. So for listeners that don't know, I had the honour and the privilege of going out on the 47 for a sea trial. Absolutely loved it. Fell in love with that boat. Where is she now? Where's she heading to?
The 47 is out of the water at the moment on the Isle of Wight in a boatyard called Diverse Marine. They are fitting out all of the starboard hull and doing quite a lot of work on it to get it ready for the trip to Norway. So the aim is to get it back in the water for Seawork, which is a workboat show in sort of beginning of June. And then we are going up to Norway with her from sort of mid-June and taking around sort of 3-4 weeks to go up to Tromsø. That's going to be so exciting because the company up there that are chartering her, they do diving with orcas, they do ski mountaineering, They do sort of summer fjord tours, and just it's the most beautiful environment. And to have our 47 up there in that environment is just going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, wow, what a place to go and explore. So they're going to be chartering that through their own company, are they? The people will be able to get in contact with that company that's acquired her and be able to charter the boat through them.
Yeah. So Northern Yachting, it's a great company, and the owner is a fantastic guy, and yeah, they do some awesome things. And if you haven't been up to Tromsø, it's above the Arctic Circle. It's absolutely magical place, and yeah, things like diving with orcas and ski mountaineering off the boat is just going to be cool.
God, what an epic adventure that would be! That's something I'd absolutely love to do. To head up to that part of the world on a 47 and explore. That would be, yeah, that'd be phenomenal. It'd be interesting to see what happens with that. So, look, Stephen, I know you're a very busy man. I really appreciate your time. It's good to kind of catch up and have a chat with you. Anyone that's interested in finding out more, they can go to your website, right?
Yeah, go to the website, and our email address is there, and or leave comments in on these things, which I'm sure you'll pass on to me, John. So yeah, no, any way, get in touch, however you want.
Perfect. So for anyone listening, it's archipelago-yachts.co.uk, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Look, it's been a pleasure speaking with you again. Thanks for your time, and yeah, I look forward to the next update.
Yeah, no problem, John. All right. Well, yeah, maybe see you in Norway.
Oh, well, absolutely. I'll meet you there.
All right.
Perfect. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Please do not forget to give this podcast a thumbs up if you are listening to it on YouTube. And don't forget to leave a review if you are listening to this on Spotify, as it really does help. If you'd like to appear on the show, then feel free to get in contact with me. I will leave a link to my microsite in the description. Until next time, fair winds and following seas.